Good day everyone, Warname James here. Welcome to my part 2 of Warsaken standard tutorial. In this tutorial you will learn how to use the basic controls in Tabletopia. These controls are shared with all the games hosted on that site and are not exclusive to Warsaken. I will however focus on the commands that are specifically useful if you want to play Warsaken standard. First things you want to do is close any pop-ups that you might see. At times you see a video shot box here on the bottom right corner, which I do not have now. You might want to close it. You also might want to maximize game view by using the top right button. Now, if you are the type of a person who prefers to learn controls on their own, I will show you immediately where to find all the commands related to Tabletopia. You can press the F1 key or right-click the field from any position and pick the symbol with question mark, and you will get this window. It showcases all the generic commands you need to know to play any Tabletopia game. And if you want to get out of this window, you can just click anywhere on the window and it will automatically close. The consoles are pretty intuitive if you are used to PC games. You can move and interact with objects by just moving across and left-clicking them. If you left-click things twice, you can see detailed information about cards and objects. If you hold the left mouse button, you can move the camera around. And if you hold the right mouse button, you can pan it about or rotate it as you see pleased. There are also options to lock the camera angles if you want by pressing Shift 1 or Shift 2 and 3 keys. Then with the number keys you can just swap into any camera angle you have saved if you so wish. The most important part, however, is to remember that the right mouse button always creates a radial dial that corresponds to specific commands related to the object you are using. For example, if I mouse over this deck here, let's zoom in with the mouse scroller. If I press the right mouse button, I get options to lock the deck, which is useful if I don't want to accidentally move cards on deck. Take cards, shuffle the deck, or show cards. These three options are the ones you will be using mostly: draw, shuffle, and take. What you need to be aware of is the deal option. It will deal cards from your deck to your opponent's hand. It's something you do not want to press accidentally when you go for the draw option. Just gonna shuffle the deck as an example. You generally want to shuffle the deck on every single game you play on Tabletopia, since all the decks are placed on a specific order when the game is uploaded. Which means that if you do not shuffle your deck, you will always end up with the same cards. While using the right mouse button to interact with the specific object, it's not often the simplest method to do. And at times it can be quite inconvenient. For example, if I would like to use this dice, which you will be mostly using on Warsaken Blitz, I would need to right mouse button it and select the roll option every single time. But as you can see, when I hover over it, it also says that I can simply press the R key to roll my dice. So it's easier to remember these kind of shortcuts. Another thing is something that you will be doing a lot in the Warsaken standard, is that if you select a card, there is an option to flip the card or rotate the card. Now, flipping a card, the dial, it's fairly simple, but when you want to rotate it, things get a bit more difficult. Which is why you should remember these two quick commands. For flipping a card, press F key. It's a lot faster and simple. And if you want to rotate the card, can use the Q and E key on your keyboard. It's a lot faster and easy once you get the hang of it. Besides these basics of basically highlighting cards, moving cards, picking it up, there are some more advanced commands you might want to use for the selections. Namely, if you press and hold the Shift key on your keyboard and drag your mouse like this, you can select multiple cards and control them at once. Keep in mind that all the commands that control cards also will affect every single card you have selected. So if I use the Q and E keys to rotate cards, I can rotate all of them. Or if I use the F key, I can flip these cards about as much as I want. Alternatively, if you do not want to drag boxes about and only need 2 specific cards, you can press the Shift key and just click top of the cards, and you will select specific ones. Another good thing to know is that all the tokens, besides the cards, have their own unique mechanics. In Warsaken, these tokens are used to track territory as well as the leader health. You can simply alter these numbers of the tokens by double-clicking them and using these numeric tiles to increase and decrease these values as you see please. This is really useful if you want to keep track on health points or something else such as timers. Alternatively, you can also use your mouse scroll button and just roll it out, but this is a bit slow for the higher numbers, so I do not recommend using it for directories. Alternatively, you can use the redial to do all the things here as well, but this is pretty clunky. The reset option, however, here is quite useful if you just want to set the token value to 0 and just increase it manually afterwards. Next thing, related to the dices, which I already briefly mentioned, are these 2 values next to leader, more which I will cover in next tutorial. They have timers, 2 for the loyalty ability and 5 for the nuclear, in this case of Lockwood. And there are 2 dices next to them that you can use to track these timers by using the set 2 values. The moral and inter tokens here represent the value of inter mechanics, more of that on the next tutorial, as well as leader moral. You can also control these the same way as other tokens, but for these ones, since the increases and decreases are generally small, I recommend the middle mouse button and just mouse scrolling it to increase and decrease them. If you need more tokens, there are these 2 bags here, which are probably named dices and counters. You can either just left click them and drag them on the field in as many quantities as you want, or you can just right click any of them, let's say in this dice bag here, and picking the take option. Let's say I want to take 4 tokens. I'll press the 4 here and I will get 4 dices here. So I can then, let's say, move here on the Lockwood side, preparation game, and I take some tokens and add these 2 ones here, and put them next to them. You can use these tokens and counters as well as dices in any way you want to represent what you need to know in the field. For example, if you need the bigger icons, you can always replace these dices that represent reader abilities with tokens if you want to. Whichever is comfortable for you to use. Let's take a look at the draw mechanics as well as playing cards next. As I already mentioned, there is this usual option to draw cards here, and we also covered the take option, which lets you take cards or tokens on the field. If you use draw, you can draw cards from your deck directly to your hand. and it shows like this. If you move about, you can highlight the cards like this, and if you double left click them, you can see the details. You can also right click any card and pick an option to flip it, or you can even select all the cards you want, like this. To play a card, simply drag it on the field, and to put the card back onto your hand, simply drag it towards you until you see this blue light lit up on the bottom, and just release it. The case where you would like to flip a card before you play it is when you play a card face down in a not ready position on the field, but more of that later. Additionally, should you need to put cards on the field, you might want to do the select all and flip option, so your opponent sees that you have no cards. This is useful on search mechanics, which I will also cover later on the next tutorial. And if you look at the spot right here, it has a number 0. It shows I have no cards. If I put my cards back, it will show number 8. It will also indicate that I have now 8 cards in my hand. This is useful for paying attention to your opponent's card. It will usually be shown on the top right corner. If I would for some reason need to put cards to my deck from anywhere on the field, and or discard, I can just pick any card, doesn't matter which way it's facing, and just hover it over the deck and just release it like this. It will be the first card out of the deck. This covers most of the card interactions and useful abilities from Warsaken Standard. There are a few general things that you need to know related to Tabletopia itself, namely the top left corner. Here you could pause game or finish and declare a winner if you want to. You could also restart the game. If I click the room, restart here, it will, after a short delay, simply revert the game room into state it was. And there we go, we see the video sub option as well, which I usually close. You also have an option to send feedback or close the room, which is immediately going to close the game room. Or you can pick back to lobby, which when selected will return you back to the original game lobby. On the next tutorial, we will go more in depth on the Warsaken mechanics and also review a bit of these commands related to them. After that tutorial, I will do a demonstration game that will showcase how the Warsaken standard actually functions from start to end. Thank you for watching, and I hope you will enjoy Warsaken.